A man who assaulted a woman who was going home after a night out has been given 5 years and 4-month prison sentence. He will also be on licence for a further 3 years. Dutch national Abdallah Aways, 25, pleaded guilty to 2 counts of assault by touching and 1 count of assault by penetration. He was sentenced at Inner London Crown Court. The victim bravely read her statement impact in court. She said, "Ever since the incident that occurred that fatal night, my life has been completely turned upside down. Stepping outside my door is not the same anymore. I now find myself being on the edge and wary around males, tracking their movements and figuring out ways I can keep myself safe. I am no longer the happy-go-lucky person I used to be, and my view on the world has changed significantly. Due to the incident, I have been self-isolating. I am not as present in social situations. I avoid family gatherings, and I'll only partake if I have to. I won't participate in anything fun, and I feel I just want to stay at home where I feel safe. As a result of this, it has had a huge impact on my relationship with my family and friends. He has also taken away my carefree attitude and the fact that I always used to smile at people. And now I find I am so suspicious of everyone I see. I view people differently. My outlook has changed and I feel quite paranoid, on edge, and this is not someone who I ever was before." In the early hours of Sunday the 21st of July 2024, the victim was travelling home from Shepherd's Bush. At around 4 AM she arrived at the bank and started to walk home. The victim got slightly confused about the best direction to travel and was approached by Mr. Aways, who suggested she come with him. The victim engaged in a conversation with a nearby security guard who wanted the use of her lighter. Mr. Aways walked away and hid in the doorway of a building out of sight of the victim. When the victim was on her own again, Mr. Aways left the hiding place and followed her. CCTV shows Mr. Aways catching up with the victim and blocking her from passing, pinning her against the wall and putting his tongue in her mouth. What then followed was a number of serious assaults on the victim, where Mr. Aways is seen to actively stop the victim from leaving. Throughout the attack, the victim tries to get away and repeatedly tells Mr. Aways to stop. This attack lasted for around 25 minutes before the victim managed to get on a bus. Unfortunately, Mr. Aways followed her onto it. The victim managed to get off the bus at Liverpool Street and then took video footage of Mr. Aways on the bus. On her walk from the bus stop to her house, she called the police. This was around 30 minutes after the incident took place. Early reporting enabled officers to get samples and start the hunt for Mr. Aways. Mr. Aways was identified by his bank card being used to tap onto the bus. He was arrested on the 7th of August 2024 and confirmed during an interview that he had seen the victim on the night and claimed that all contact was consensual. He denied digitally penetrating the victim and at court initially pleaded not guilty. Forensic work located Mr. Aways' DNA on items provided by the victim. On the 8th of November 2024, Mr. Aways changed his plea to guilty. Detective Constable Raven Headlam, City of London Police, said, "Our thoughts are with the victim and her family. This has had an immeasurable impact on the victim's life, and her bravery at reporting this despicable crime has meant that a dangerous predator has been taken off the streets. I am in full admiration of her extraordinary courage and assistance throughout the investigation and prosecution. Providing samples is invasive and harrowing, but proved vital in proving without a doubt what Mr. Abdallah Aways did on that night. Committed to tackling male predatory behaviour and reducing violence against women and girls. We encourage anyone who has been assaulted to please come forward. You'll be believed and we will fully investigate." A man has been jailed and 2 men have been sentenced for an unsuccessful cash for crash plot cost LV General Insurance over £100,000. 2 of the men deliberately staged a collision between 2 cars, including an Aston Martin that they falsely stated was worth around £60,000, and went on to submit claims on insurance. Inconsistencies between the trio's accounts of the collision and the damage to their cars raised alarm bells with LV and Direct Line Group DLG, the companies that insured each car. The case was referred to the City of London Police's Insurance Fraud Enforcement Department, the IFED, for investigation. A jury at Gloucester Crown Court found the men guilty of fraud jailed by false representation and perverting the course of justice following a 3-week trial in 2024. They were sentenced at the same court on Thursday the 19th of December as follows. Edwin White, 65, of Dibden Lane, Tewkesbury, was sentenced to 18 months. Nicholas Rolfe, 67, of Station Road, Cheltenham, was sentenced to 6 months in prison, suspended for 12 months, and he must also pay £6,300 compensation to LV and a fine of £1,000. Clive Moore, 51, Hanham Road, Bristol, was handed a 9-month community order, and he must also complete 100 hours of unpaid work and pay a £1,000 fine. Detective Sergeant Chris Jones from the City of London Police's Insurance Fraud Enforcement Department said, Mr. White and Mr. Ralph could have put themselves at risk of physical harm in the pursuit of insurance money. Cases like this demonstrate the greed of insurance fraudsters and the measures they will take for financial gain. Cash for crash fraud pushes up the cost of insurance premiums for the public. Average of over £1.3 million worth of bogus motor insurance claims were detected each day in 2023, showing that insurance fraud doesn't go unnoticed by the industry or law enforcement. We will work collaboratively to bring the fraudsters to justice, as this case shows. On the 4th of May 2018, a Peugeot 288 driven by Mr. Ralph collided with an Aston Martin DB9 driven by Mr. White. Mr. White contacted his insurer, DLG, to report that the Peugeot had hit a pothole in the road and swerved into the Aston Martin's path. Mr. White claimed that he swerved to try and avoid the car, which resulted in his Aston Martin hitting a wall and a post. He stated that he had paid £59,000 for the Aston Martin and had brought it in a very good condition. A few hours later, Mr. Ralph contacted his insurer, LV, to report the collision and the claim for damage to the Peugeot. Both Mr. Ralph and Mr. White alleged that they did not know each other, and LV settled Mr. Ralph's claim for £6,300. Mr. White's claim that he had brought the Aston Martin in good condition. Examinations commissioned by the insurers showed that inside was of a poor condition. The insurers also found that the garage where Mr. White purchased the Aston Martin did not routinely sell vehicles at such a high price. LV commissioned GBB to carry out further detailed examinations of the car, which concluded that the damage to the Peugeot was not consistent with it hitting a pothole. On the 9th of July, Mr. White told DLG that he had found the contact details of a third party, Mr. Moore, who had witnessed the collision. Mr. Moore was interviewed by LV, during which he stated that he had been driving behind the Aston Martin and witnessed the collision. Mr. White sent DLG a bank statement as proof that he had paid £59,995 for the Aston Martin. When LV made inquiries with Mr. White's bank, the bank could not trace the transaction. On the 23rd of August, LV received an invoice worth a total of £42,000 for car hire charges. Due to the concerns it had around the validity of the claims, LV cancelled Mr. Ralph's insurance policy and asked him to repay the £6,300 he had received in compensation. The following day, Mr. White was told his claim had been rejected. Ben Fletcher, Director of Financial Crime at LV, said, "Cash for crash frauds are a serious problem, and these verdicts will serve as a warning to anyone else thinking of staging a crash to falsely claim compensation. The vast majority of claims are genuine, and we do all we can to settle them promptly. But this case highlights the lengths some people will go to make fraudulent claims. We are resolute in our determination to identify and defend against any type of fraud. There is a simple message here. If your claim is genuine, we will deal with it quickly and fairly as we can. If greed takes over you and you try to commit fraud, then be warned you may face unintended consequences, including being convicted in a court and a criminal record." The case was referred to the IFED in September. Call data was obtained and showed that Mr. Ralph and Mr. White had been in contact with each other before and after the collision took place. Stuart Stevens, head of counter-fraud intelligence at Direct Line, said, "At Direct Line Group, we're committed to detecting and deterring as much fraud as possible and across our business. We have highly skilled investigators who are working continuously with intelligence to crack down on fraudulent claims like this one. We will work with all law enforcement agencies to assist them in preparing for cases for criminal prosecution. We are delighted that the perpetrators of this fraud have been brought to justice. Their sentences should serve as a stark warning to others that insurance fraud is not a victimless crime, and harsh sentences will be sought in support of Direct Line's Group Zero Tolerance approach to insurance fraud. A man has been sentenced to 6 years and 5 months in prison for the attempted assault of a woman in a bar in the City of London. In the early hours of Monday the 27th of February 2024, Rizwan Afzal, 22 of Pine Road, London, carried out a sustained assault on the victim, who was unconscious inside a closed licensed premises. The victim reported the incident to the police on the 9th of April 2024. Officers obtained CCTV footage which revealed the extent of the violence carried out by Mr. Afzal, and investigators found Mr. Afzal from information linked to a mobile phone number given to the police. He was arrested on the 24th of April 2024. As well as pleading guilty to the attempted assault, he also pleaded guilty to another assault and attempt to cause a woman to engage in penetrative activity. Constable Olivia Hall in the Public Protection Unit of the City of London Police said, "I would like to praise the bravery and the courage shown by the victim in reporting to the police and throughout the investigation, tackling violence against women and girls. And we take all reports of assault seriously and encourage victims to report their experience to the police, no matter the length of time that has passed. We will believe you, listen and support you throughout every step of the investigation and do everything we can to bring the offender to justice." A 25-year-old man has been sentenced to 31 months in prison at Inner London Crown Court after pleading guilty to possession with intent to supply Class A drugs, including Mahiba Ali, was stopped in a vehicle at 10:15 p.m. on the 13th of November 2022 in Giltspur Street. It was after the car was flagged by an automatic number plate recognition, qualified driver and license revocation. The officers noticed that Mr. Ali was extremely nervous and the vehicle was searched, and a mixture of Class A, B and C drugs were found in the car. Further mobile phone evidence revealed Mr. Ali had been supplying drugs. Detective Constable Westall in the Criminal Investigation Department at the City of London Police said, "City of London police officers are proactively targeting offenders and we are taking action to disrupt and pursue those involved in the supply of Class A drugs on the street of London. This sentencing should send a message to those involved in drug dealing. You will be arrested and charged and sent to prison." Mr. Ali also pleaded guilty to possession with intent to supply Class B drugs, for which he was given a 10-month sentence. He was also sentenced to 4 months for possession with the intent to supply Class C drugs. Both sentences will be served concurrently with his 31-month sentence. A man who pleaded guilty to possessing Class A drugs with intent to supply has been sentenced to 2 years in jail. Andre Gergy, 36, of Abbey Street, Newham, London, was sentenced at Inner London Crown Court. On the 11th of October 2024, officers from the Targeted Intercept and Tactical ANPR team, Titan, carried out a search of the vehicle Mr. Gergy was driving. After he was spotted acting suspiciously, police dog indicated that something suspicious was behind the centre console armrest. Police search advisors went on to find a large quantity of drugs, street value of around £6,000, inside the centre console armrest, including cocaine, magic mushrooms, LSD and MDMA. Officers discovered that the flooring of the centre console was hinged with an electromagnetic lock which allowed the flooring to be lifted, and this was where the drugs were hidden. During the search, a lock knife was also discovered. Emma Martin at the Criminal Investigation Department of City of London Police said, "We will do everything we can to disrupt and stop the supply of drugs in the City of London, which cause so much harm in our communities. City of London police officers will proactively target offenders, and this sentencing should be a warning to those involved in drug dealing. You will be arrested, charged and sent to prison." In court, Mr. Gergy also pleaded guilty to possession of a bladed article or point, possession of Class B drugs, driving without a third-party insurance, and driving whilst disqualified. Mr. Gergy was sentenced to 2 years in prison, disqualified for driving for 2 years. A drug dealer has been sentenced to 27 months in prison for possession with intent to supply Class A drugs. Bernard Nicolaj, 32 of Horlock Walk, Camden, was sentenced at Inner London Crown Court. A City of London police officer stopped Mr. Gilolaj after he observed some suspicious behaviour. He was detained for a search under the Section 23 Misuse of Drugs Act and found to be in possession of an ibuprofen box which contained 22 bags of cocaine. Police also recovered £290 in cash. Constable Amy Westall of City London Police said, "Drugs in London severely impact our communities, drive violence and organised crime, and can lead to vulnerable people being exploited. City of London Police is committed to catching those who deal drugs in the square mile and bring them to justice to make our streets safer." A drug dealer has been sentenced at the Old Bailey to 32 months in prison for possession with intent to supply Class A drugs. Alejandro Zanelli, 21 of no fixed address, was also convicted of driving without insurance and driving without a licence. On Thursday the 15th of August 2024, a City of London police officer stopped a vehicle Mr. Zanelli was driving on Farrington Street at around 6:30 p.m. following suspicious behaviour. Officers from the Targeted Intercept and Tactical AMPR team Titan carried out a search of the vehicle and, with the help of a police dog, drugs were found hidden in the sun visor. Around 20 sealed bags of cocaine were found, and further searches led to finding £360 in the centre console. 2 mobile phones were also recovered, with one of the devices showing messages that suggested drug dealing. Chief Inspector Joe Cash at the City of London Police said, "City of London police officers will proactively target offenders, and we will take action to disrupt and pursue those involved in the supply of Class A drugs on the street of London. This sentencing should also send a message to those involved in drug dealing. You will be arrested, charged and sent to prison." Titan was launched following a hugely successful intelligence-led operation to track down vehicles known to be involved in criminality using the city's extensive camera network. The team conduct a mixture of planned and spontaneous tactical response to high harm offenders. They are targeting drug dealers, phone snatchers, money launderers, and those controlling modern slavery and human trafficking. A serial shoplifter has been jailed for 4 months and banned from entering the City of London for 5 years. Kyle Harrington, 37 of Harlow, Essex, was convicted of stealing more than £1,400 worth of items between the 31st of March and the 9th of October 2024 and of a public order offence. He was handed a criminal behaviour order (CBO) which bans him from entering the square mile for 5 years. Detective Sergeant Helen Bentley of the City of London Police said, "The impact of shoplifting on our local businesses, communities can cause significant alarm and distress to retail staff. We will continue to work closely with businesses across the city to tackle shop theft and encourage businesses to report criminal activity. CBOs are designed to tackle the most serious and persistent antisocial individuals. Kyle Harrington breaches his CBO conditions. We can arrest him and put him back before the courts." Convicted of the following: on the 31st of March, a theft of £300 worth of pharmaceutical products from the pharmacy in Mile End. On the 27th of April, the theft of pharmaceutical products from the pharmacy in Mile End. On the 16th of September, the theft of 13 bottles of wine from the Co-op on Cheapside valued at £115, and the theft of £300 worth of beauty products from Boots on Cheapside, and a public order offence at the same location. 24th of September, the theft of £500 of beauty products from Boots on the Cheapside, and on the 9th of October, Mr. Harrington attempted to steal £258 worth of No. 7 products from Boots on Cheapside.